Okay, and welcome to The Actor and the Engineer. My name is Paul James. I am the actor.
My name is Josh Knapp. I'm the broadcast engineer.
Here we go, Josh.
All right, so today we're going to talk about a film by a French writer-director, Jacques Audiard. Now, have you seen any of his movies? Because I have not, but ever since A Prophet came out, or Un Prophète, I don't know how you say it, but after A Prophet came out and was nominated for an Academy Award in 2009, I heard a lot of great things about it, and I still haven't seen it, but you put that guy together with Joaquin Phoenix, John C. Reilly, Jake Gyllenhaal, Riz Ahmed. I mean, I was sitting there saying like, okay, this sounds interesting. And it kind of went by the wayside. So I thought we might want to take a look at it and see what this guy's about. So have you seen any of his other movies?
Yes, I saw Rust and Bone.
Oh, okay.
The Marianne Cotillard. Sorry. I told Josh before the podcast that I've been looking up these people's names to at least be familiar with how they sound, not necessarily be able to pronounce them myself. And the way that people pronounce French names, it's like the end part of their name is not a consonant or a vowel sound. It's a combination of both. And then it kind of just fades away. It's a really strange. French is such a beautiful sounding language, and then all of a sudden it's got this thing in it, almost like a pirate at the end, and it's like, well, is that really how they say their names?
Well, you did kind of pick two names that end in the same exact way, like Cotillard and Audiard, are like they're almost the same name.
Absolutely, and the way you say it is very French American, and you can hear the R and the D when you say it. But I'm telling you, when you go to howtopronounce.com, go listen to it. It's interesting, the American ear hearing an inflection of how something that sounds normal to us as an R and a D sounds completely different in a different dialect. Anyway, yes, I saw Rust and Bone. I saw that the year that it came out because there was talk of Marianne Cotillard being nominated for the Oscar and a lot of talk about why wasn't she? But I had actually seen a trailer for that movie before it ever came into the consciousness of the Academy Awards. And I remember thinking to myself, love her. Who's that guy? Because there's a French actor in that I really like too, but I've seen him only a few times.
Matthias Schoenaerts.
That's him, yes.
He's good.
Yeah, he's great. And all of a sudden there's this shot of a killer whale and her in a wetsuit, and then a really quick shot of her with no legs. And it kind of went in and went out. And I was like, wait, what is this movie? Why is there a whale in this movie? What is she doing? And was she injured? What's going on? So I rented it when it came to Redbox. And I think it was around the time when Redbox first started. And so they have a pretty good variety nowadays, but back then it was like $1.25. Not that it's that much more now, but there were always these really strange, odd choices because maybe they were just a startup company and they could only get so much to distribute. And so I rented it and I watched it and I was blown away by her. I was blown away by him, and I was blown away by that movie. And yes, there is a killer whale, and yes, she has no legs. We'll leave it at that. You should see that movie.
Oh, okay.
But I had no idea this is the guy we were getting ready to watch this movie.
Oh.
I had no idea. I backtracked all that after seeing this movie.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, so then I guess the next question would be, do you see a kind of like a fingerprint for Audiard as a filmmaker, or do these kind of seem like two separate entities?
Well, it's been a really long time since I saw, and I want to go look it up really quick because I want to make sure I'm giving the right title. I think it's Rust and Bone.
It is.
It's not Rust and Bones, right? Okay. I have a thing about S's. If there's a plural form, I have a tendency to drop the S. And if it's not, I have a tendency to add an S. So this is my dialect lesson for the day, ladies and gentlemen. So I just wanted to make sure that was correct. I remember the movie, the narrative, and the feeling I got from it. And the performances are stunning, meaning Rust and Bone. Do I remember if there's a fingerprint? I can't say that I do.
Mm-hmm.
There are similarities in, I guess, the tone that he takes. Because something that you think is going to be comedic turns out to be something entirely different. And I kind of like that. So no, I don't really specifically remember enough of Rust and Bone to say this is his thumbprint.
Okay, so speaking about, that perceived tone, and you talked about seeing a trailer for Rust and Bone. I saw a trailer for the Sisters Brothers a long time ago, and I mean, I think that whoever made the trailer, which is probably, we've talked about this before, a marketing company, did a disservice to the filmmakers, and really kind of, they sell something that's not there. And even the ways that they use things that the characters say in different scenes, in completely different scenes, to make something perceptually different.
I've been practicing this for about an hour. They done did that film wrong. They did it wrong. The advertisement for this movie was wrong.
Yeah.
And I went back and I looked at, they done did it wrong. I went back and I looked at the couple trailers that are on the IMDb page, and I was like, was that my imagination? Did I assume because it was John C. Reilly that it was almost slapstick looking? But then I watched, and it's kind of has the tone of the movie in some places in the trailer, but the way that they put that trailer together, they put that literal slap in there as if it's a farcical thing, and him being drunk in one scene and falling off his horse. They did it wrong. They did this movie the biggest disservice. They should have just told people what this movie was. They should have not tried to invite people to see this film by giving them the wrong premise. It was the wrong way to do it. I actually think this movie would have caught fire if they had put the right trailer out there.
Maybe. Even though the song that they used, the Tainted Love song, I mean, it's out of nowhere compared to like what the movie's
wrong.
Like. And I felt like going into the movie, in a lot of ways, I was kind of like sold a bill of goods. And then we get into the movie, and fairly quickly you find out that there is humor in this movie, but it's a really dry humor. And I feel like the filmmakers are really trying to, they're toying with the audience in a lot of ways. And it's something that I don't think I was ready for. It seemed to me kind of like, Coen Brothers light, I guess. So, I mean, I'm coming into this without having seen any of his other movies, and I know it's based on a novel. And so, I mean, I know he's working with a particular format and a particular story structure, but I felt like they were constantly subverting what your expectations would be in each of those, in a lot of scenes. And for me, it just didn't cohere. It didn't stick together as well as something like a Coen Brothers movie would, specifically some, True Grit, I guess, if you wanted to compare it to, the Coen Brothers Western, or the quintessential Coen Brothers Western, where it has comedy, but then it also has, serious bits, and kind of like, deadpan bits throughout the movie. And yeah, I don't know what it was about. Part of me was like getting the feeling that the actors weren't in it all the way. Like, did you get that feeling at all? Or did you really, really enjoy this? You really enjoyed it.
I loved it.
So help me.
And it came out in December.
Enjoy it.
Okay. It came out in December of 2018. And if I had seen this film, it probably would have made my top 10 list of the year. I actually think, unfortunately, that trailer and your expectations has set something up for you.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, it took me a minute to readjust, because the first thing that you see is that battle in the dark.
Yeah.
Never seen anything like that in a Western. Never seen anything like that. I've seen a shootout. I've seen, hey, we're the blah, blah brothers. You better watch out. We're coming to get you. I've seen all that, but I've never seen it where I would have loved to seen this on the big screen, because that shot would have been intense, where the actual lighting comes from the explosions from the guns. And then you see barns burning. You've seen horses in jeopardy before, but have you ever seen a horse running away on fire? Literally?
Mm-hmm.
Never. So I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm getting ready to see something that I've seen my whole entire life in a different view. And I actually think these actors were intensely involved in this. And the performances were stunning to me. I have to immediately go to Jake Gyllenhaal. We can talk about him a little bit later, but what does he do? It's incomprehensible what he does. He sounds almost virtually different than he sounds in any other movie. He's structurally different than a lot of the things that he does. A lot of things that he's been doing lately are borderline psychologically challenged people, and almost to the point where that neurosis is the character study. And Velvet Buzzsaw is a prime example where he's neurotic in a way, and I think he builds the character around that neurosis, and it doesn't work for me as much in that film, but I wasn't a big fan of that film. But he has this way of completely disappearing from me. I see Jake Gyllenhaal. I know it's Jake Gyllenhaal. I recognize it's Jake Gyllenhaal, but his mannerisms, his voice, his tone, his cadence are always different. And it's different in this. So props to him. And I thought that because it's John C. Reilly and we're used to, the Step Brothers and all the stuff that he's done, and we're used to the PTA disposition and the comedy that they do together, even though that's a different type of comedy than Step Brothers or things that are comedic. I'm used to him getting ready to bust a joke or be the butt of a joke. And his performance is stunning. There's a reason why he's an Oscar nomination. And if anybody ever says, he's an Academy Award nominee, I would say, watch Sisters Brothers, because he's great. And I was expecting Joaquin Phoenix to do that whole crazy over the top thing. And it's there, but it's contained in a different way. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to help you like this better, but I immediately knew that this was not what I was expecting. And 2 minutes into it, I went, oh, this is a proper Western. This is a proper Western. It's not a comedic Western. It's not a Coen Brothers Western. It's not a Clint Eastwood Western. It's not even a spaghetti Western. It's just a well-told story that takes place in this period, in this time, and in these cities or towns and then city of San Francisco that happened to take place in the 1800s. And I was like, oh, it's going to be about prospecting gold? Oh, okay, well, I've seen that before, but I've never seen the aspect of having this chemical develop that you're going to pour into the water and it's going to make the gold shine. And you learn all this stuff very quickly. I'm not giving anything away, and it's not really spoilers. I've never seen any storyline that goes that way. And then when it turns later on and becomes this epic disaster, I was like, oh, we still have the same kind of Western that we always have. Be careful of what you wish for. You're going to get it, but it's going to come to you in a way that you're going to have to pay. And the way that all of those themes and all of those tropes that you get in these cowboy movies have just a bit of a twist on them, I was thrilled about.
Mm-hmm.
Thrilled. So I don't know if that's going to help you.
Well, there were certain scenes that I thought were really good and inventive, like the fact that they're sitting, or they're, as Eli is sleeping, he ingests a spider, and you're just kind of like, oh, that's gross. And then you realize, oh, wait, that has lasting effects, and it prevents them from getting to where they need to go because of his inability to be at, top performance as far as just, riding on a horse and all that stuff. And then the bear scene, that's another example of like the subverting expectations of the audience. If a bear comes into your camp, wouldn't you think that a film made about these people on this journey would include the scene of the bear coming in their camp and him killing the bear? But it didn't. He just wakes up and the bear's dead, and the bear's killed scratched a horse, and so it's just a matter of fact type thing. But those are the things that I'm also interested in with a Western, where it's like, it's perilous. It is, the fact that they aren't able to communicate in the same way. They have to leave notes for one another. The Jake Gyllenhaal character leaves a note for them, and assumes that they're going to show up at this place, and then they're checking for notes. I mean, there's no, it's a completely different, life and expectation of the way, they're living their lives than we have now. And I want to explore that, and I want the filmmakers to explore that. But I don't know, they're, I thought that the subject matter at the end, as far as the gold, that chemical used for the gold, I thought that was cool. The function of that in the storytelling, and like you said, that same, be careful what you ask for, you might get it type of thing. That was great. I thought that all that was good. I didn't get hooked by this movie, so that's that's my problem, I guess.
Well, it's okay. I mean, I get what you're saying. Let me just interject this. The fact that we don't see the bear come in and attack, and Joaquin Phoenix Charlie killing the bear, is thrilling to me, because how many times have we seen that? Mm-hmm. And the fact that the bear doesn't do any damage to anything except for the horse it's purposeful. It has a purpose other than the bear coming in and attacking, which we've seen 1,000 times before. And I also thought that was interesting that you see a spider being ingested, because you always hear about how you eat like 5,000 spiders a night, a year, or something like that. I don't know what it is, but it's some kind of weird urban legend thing that's been twisted, but I'm sure it's probably true. You can open your stomach right now and find 16 carcasses of spiders. Okay, sure. But the fact that that's utilized instead of a snake bite, or him falling off his horse and busting his head, or him breaking an arm, something different happened than what you're expecting to happen. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you're just thinking it's a throwaway, because I was like, oh, that's disgusting. Oh, that's disgusting. Oh, he's eating that spider. And I was like, that's disgusting. But then it becomes it becomes an antagonist. It becomes a thing they have to fight against and have to deal with. And they don't have any idea what's wrong with him, because he says, I'm sick. And then his face blows up, and then he can't move his neck and all that stuff. They have no idea how to deal with it, other than having to just trudge right through, because they have to get, on the road again or on the trail again, and they have no other choice. So the fact that it's not a spider or a scorpion, or he gets burned by a fire, something that is usually a cliche in these films, is interesting to me. The fact that it's utilized as something as a conflict is interesting to me. The fact that the bear is not fought in the middle of the night in a scene is interesting to me, because we already know what happened. We've seen it 1,000,000 times. And the fact that the important part to that is that it was the horse that got hurt. Mm-hmm. And the one animal that John C. Reilly wanted, and is able to show true affection to, is the thing that gets hurt. And it takes a long period of time for that effect to really come into play, to the point where the horse is no longer good, is interesting to me, because it's not, I haven't seen it put together like that before. So for me, I was like, I'm glad we're not seeing the bear being shot or bear being killed. And the thing about the letters that I thought was interesting was the intense peril that could have been caused by a day being missed, or a note being missed, or somebody being killed because the note was dropped or not processed, or they couldn't find their name or whatever, like they were searching at one point, which is a great way to completely say the name of this movie over and over again without it sounding like a purposeful reason to say sisters, brothers, because it sounds ready for a scene. Your name's what? Your sisters? No, we're brothers. We're the sisters' brothers. They never went there. It was always utilized as a reason for something. So they get to say their name, because they, of course, have a reputation, because they're, killers. And it wasn't the reputation of their name that was important. It was the fact that that note was going to tell them what to do next. So they utilized this legend of the sisters brothers names for a different reason other than what you normally see in westerns, where it's like a little wanted sign, or a little, like in Unforgiven, it's a little cartoon book, the sisters brothers rides again, those kind of things. The fact that it was utilized in a different way was unexpected for me, and I like that stuff. It brought something new to it for me.
What about the language in westerns? They use this kind of like formalized English. Have you noticed that in a lot of westerns? I mean, there's obviously westerns out there that go against that, but most recently we talked about Buster Scruggs, and there multiple scenes in there. There's very formalized English that's being used in there, and I think that the combination of that formalized English plus Jake Gyllenhaal's accent, there was something that seemed disingenuous to me about it, like he was putting on something. I don't know. Like, it just seemed like chewing the scenery for me. Like that the way that he's using that particular language and that particular accent. It just seemed, I mean, I thought Riz Ahmed's character was great and was, straight down the line. It seemed like he seemed like an eager, believable character to me. Whereas, I don't know, the Jake Gyllenhaal character seemed a little, I don't know, there was something off about it. I don't know how to, and this is what bugs me, is I don't know how to articulate it other than, what I just said.
Well, I mean, I think you make perfect sense out of what you're saying, and I can perfectly see why you see it that way. But for me, it showed me Riz Ahmed was the true gentleman. He wanted the world to be a better place. He didn't want to make money to do anything but have his own little idea of society and see if he could create something better than the torturous way that people were living. That's another thing you don't really hear about in a lot of these cowboy movies. Usually it's like, yeah, kill them.
Well, usually it's just people trying to stay alive. That's most right. Westerns. And he's actually going one level above everybody else and trying to figure out a way to create a new society.
Yeah, he wants to remove himself from this violence, and there is that stuff there. There is that we've killed so many men, we need to kill these other people, and the killing exists in this movie, just like you do in most westerns. And there's shootouts, and there's saloons, and all of your cliches, and prostitutes and madams and all those cliches. And I just realized who the main prostitute was too. I didn't realize it at the time. Allison Tolman from
Fargo.
Yeah, she's great. Yes. And she did Krampus with Toni Collette, and Adam Scott, which sounds like a really ridiculous concept, but it actually kind of worked. It scared the hell out of me, I'll tell you that. And I never thought I'd be scared of Santa Claus, but Krampus, whole nother thing. And it's because they casted real actors for these situations, and anything. And I was like, I really like this lady, the young prostitute, or the younger prostitute. And I was like, but I never would have recognized her. And so when I finally looked at her name, I was like, yes, I'm glad she's working. I'm glad she's finding her way through this field of actors in Hollywood. I'm happy for people like that, because she's truly talented, and she is amazing in Fargo. I think she was Emmy nominated and Golden Globe nominated, so her name is around, so that's always good. Okay, so back to Jake Gyllenhaal. I totally get what you're saying, but for me, the dialect and the rhythm and the language that he used showed me that he was an educated man, self-educated or school educated. It didn't matter to me, but he was above the norm when it came to these situations, meaning he was trying to be better than what his lot in life has dictated to him at this point. And because he's really no better or worse than the sisters brothers are, because he's the scout. He's pretty much the guy who sets the person they're going to kill up. He sets these people up. He finds them. He seduces them, if that's what you want to use as a term, but that's what he does, friendship wise. And he goes, okay, we're in such and such a town. I will hold him overnight. I'll see you in the morning. Bang, bang, bang. So he's no better, no worse, but you get the impression that he is trying to be better than the sum total of the parts that he's been raised at. And so maybe he is supposed to sound affected when he talks, meaning that it is a put on dialect, meaning he's trying to be better than the way he was raised, or the way that his lot in this society has allowed him to be so far. So maybe on some level it's supposed to sound disingenuous because it's not his normal tone and cadence. It's put on because he wants to be better than the sum total of what he's already been raised in. I'm not saying that that makes it justifiable for you, and I can see what you're saying, but there's something about how different he sounded to me that I was more blown away by. I kept closing my eyes going, I can kind of hear Jake Gyllenhaal in there, kind of, but am I only hearing him because I know it's him? I think if you had played a vocal track or a scene and didn't know who the actors were, I would not know it was him. I just wouldn't. And to me, that's hard to do. So I think he pulled that off.
Well, and that does make some sense. And you juxtapose that with, so he, at the same time that he's kind of finding out that once he kind of makes a change on what's going to happen with Riz Ahmed's character, Mr. Warm, he figures out, or Warm says, these guys are going to torture me and they're going to kill me. And the Jake Gyllenhaal character Morris, he said he doesn't want that to happen. Whereas the Sisters Brothers, like pretty much the same time in the movie, are blowing away the Madam Mayfield and stealing all the money from her safe. I mean, she kind of entered into an agreement to have them be attacked in her place and all that stuff, but still it's kind of like showing the difference between Morris and the Sisters Brothers, how they would deal with this particular situation, with the situation of Warm.
I think the difference is that I think what's his name? Kermit Warm. I love that name. I think if he was just a guy that they were going after, Jake Gyllenhaal would have been like, here he is. But when he gives that speech about there's got to be something better than this. Do you not want something better than this? And I have this chemical that we can make money on and not hurt anybody. And then we can do it quickly, on top of they're going to torture me to get this information out of me. So technically, not that killing one person and torturing another person is different, but it's a different way to go about it. They're not just coming in to kill this guy. They're coming in to torture this guy to get information out of him. So when Warm talks to Morris and says, not only do I think you want a better world, I want a better world, but I have financial means to make it a better world and make you part of that. And on top of all that, they're not just going to come in and kill me. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They're going to scrape and burn my feet. He goes through a whole litany of things that they're going to do to him just to get this information that I'm willing to share with you if you allow me to survive, to try to make a better place. It's not just another killing. Not that another killing is justifiable and makes Morris a good or bad person, because he's been doing this for a long time, because the Sisters Brothers have been doing it for a long time. And he's obviously been a scout for the Commodore. Morris has obviously been the scout for the Commodore for a while now, because they have a relationship, they have an association. You can tell by just the way that they speak about each other. It's no different because he's going to kill another person. It's the fact that this guy is so genuine, Mr. Warm, is so genuine about making a better place. And on top of that, they're not just coming to kill me. They're going to torture me to get this information to make somebody who's already rich, richer, and continue this cycle. And with these men being the ages that they are, the Sisters Brothers and Mr. Morris, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, being the ages that they are kind of in their late middle age stage of life, and not middle age by our standards now, middle age by the standard of their time, meaning they don't have much more time. They don't have a lot of time to be riding the trails and killing people and figuring out how to make this guy more money. They don't have much more time. They're getting ready to have to retire, which is something that John C. Reilly talks about a little bit later on in the film, which Joaquin Phoenix doesn't want to have anything to do with, because I think he likes the lifestyle. So now, with all of those things put into play, Jake Gyllenhaal's character goes, let's make a different choice here, because it'll make the world a better place, seemingly so, my world a better place, and I won't have to have a person tortured in order to make somebody else more money. Win, win, win. So it makes sense to me why he chose, if it was just the fact that he had a chemical that could produce gold and make Jake Gyllenhaal rich, it would have been uninteresting to me. It would have been like 1,000 other spaghetti westerns, 1,000 other Clint Eastwood movies, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the fact that they might be able to change their world, which might change the world, is interesting to me in a film like this, because I've never seen that before.
No, not me either.
You know, in Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood is not trying to save the world. He's trying to not die a killer and karmically give the world something back for a change. That's his motivation in that film. You haven't seen Unforgiven, have you?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. His motivation is not to make the world a better place. His motivation is to not die this epic killer. And what he chooses to do is interesting. He does want to make somebody's world a better place, but not the world a better place. And I know it sounds idealistic, and it sounds, I'm on my soapbox and wanting to make the world a better place and Hands Across America and all that other blah, blah, blah stuff. I get it. I mean, you know, I get the cynical world we live in. And I understand that is an idea that is warranted of value, that cynicism is warranted of value, because we do live in a cynical world right now. But if there is a chance to change just this much, an inch of your world, that might change another person's world. Call me non-cynical, call me sappy, call me, you know, hands across the world, man. But I think it's an interesting motivation in a Western for somebody to have that.
Yeah. All right. What about Rutger Hauer playing the Commodore? He has no lines. He's like in a window at the beginning of the movie. And then, you know, we can move into spoilers here. So spoilers from now on to the, you know, through the rest of the movie. And then we see him at the end and he's in a casket. So I just thought that was interesting casting. It's kind of like stunt casting, you know, to have Rutger Hauer play that character. I mean, I'm sure he had fun, but I don't know, it just seemed weird. That's another way that Audiard says, you know, well, you expected this big epic battle with the Commodore at the end, but you know what? He's dead. So it's just kind of like
love it.
Yeah, you're just every turn they're kind of saying like, nope, this is what you're expecting, and you're not going to get it. It is I think that was wearing on me, and I felt a little like, and maybe I mean it probably does go back to the trailer and all that stuff, but I think it was wearing on me, and by that time I was just kind of like, all right, fine.
I think it's not stunt casting. I think it's brilliant casting. Here's why. He does have lines, you just can't hear him because he's having a conversation with Joaquin Phoenix up in that, I guess, wherever his place is, upstairs in his office, I suppose, in the beginning of the film. What's so great about casting somebody like Rutger Hauer is the fact that he has such a reputation of being a bad guy in films that you don't even need to have a scene with him to know that he's a bad guy. All you have to do is see his face. And the fact that his death is not epic, it's not in the movie. I love things like this. Have you noticed that it's been a while since people been following us?
Yeah.
And then they shoot to them getting to the town. And I'm like, wait, okay, that's a clue. That's a clue. At that point in the film, I had already known to listen out for clues. And see, I think that's kind of brilliant screenwriting because it's telling us something without telling it to us. I love that because then you have to, as an audience member, do some work. You have to go, why aren't they being followed anymore? Why aren't these epic battles happening? Why aren't people following them anymore? How come they're not getting into these shootouts? And then your mind goes one of two ways. Well, at least mine does. It goes, oh no, somebody's going to get shot in the head right now. Like Joaquin Phoenix is going to get shot right in the head, or somebody's going to get shot right now, which would have been something that's been done a million times before, albeit interesting, not as interesting as their look on their face when they turn and they look at this guy's house or building that he used to have an office in, and you see them dejected and rejected, and they can't, as an audience member, you can't figure out why they're so disappointed. And then the shot turns around and there's this big black curtain that's obviously a funeral is going on in this building, and you realize, oh, the guy is dead. Oh yeah, okay, I should have known that when he said, yeah, have you noticed nobody's been shooting at us lately? Oh yeah, the guy's dead. That makes perfect sense. And then the fact that they go in and see the body and there's no flashback scenes and there's no revenge scenes, there's nothing. And you don't see John C. Reilly's character punch him. In a way, I kind of wish you had, because I don't think I've seen a lot of corpse being punched in a funeral home in movies before. But the fact that he doesn't, because in your mind's eye as an audience member, you're going, make sure he's dead.
Mhm.
Make sure this isn't a plot. Make sure this. And that to me is the comedic tone of this movie. Because when he turns and goes, just wanted to make sure, I laughed out loud. Like, I'm glad I wasn't in the theater, because those are the moments when I'm in a theater, people think I'm really strange, because those are the things that I laugh at, because that's funny to me. Because my mind as an audience member seeing this type of movie was assuming Rutger Hauer was faking it to get these guys to come in
Mm-hmm.
and then take care of them quicker than this big shootout and killing all these people in the town and all this other stuff. But the fact that it wasn't anything like that, and the fact that he does punch him and takes out his frustrations and all of his emotions at that one moment. And, you know, the funeral director is like, sir, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, just wanted to make sure. To me, that's funny, because the director and the screenwriter know we're thinking he's faking it, and that he's not. It's kind of brilliant. I don't know. Maybe that's some kind of sick sense of humor that I have, but I thought that was funny.
Well, I did too.
I just thought it was.
I thought it was funny. I mean, it hit me a different way. And then also at the very end, casting Carol Kane as Mrs. Sisters, as their mom, was, I don't know, that you don't cast Carol Kane unless you want somebody who's funny in that role, and somebody who's known for being funny in that role, as their mom. And she does say, have, some one or two comedic lines, but I don't know, it just seems there's a lot of maybe casting questions that I guess I have about this, and it's fine. And I thought that the shot at the very end was a motion control shot, but then I was reading that it was a real, like, a practical shot, where it's like a one take shot where they're in different phases of relaxing at the end and all that. So that was kind of cool, but I didn't really feel, for me at least, it didn't feel like the film earned that cool shot at the end. I was just kind of like, oh man, they're getting fancy at the end here. And it was just like, I wish I would have liked this movie better so that I could have enjoyed this end shot more.
Okay, so I think for me, what I'm hearing from you, or my interpretation of what I'm hearing from you, is that you don't cast Carol Kane unless you're using her for her comedic ability, unless you're casting her in a movie where you've reversed and changed every aspect of everything you've expected up to this point.
Yeah.
And you cast the actor you think you're going to get what you need out of for that moment. And she handles that brilliantly. She's almost unrecognizable, and there's almost no normal Carol Kane tone in her voice.
Oh, really? I thought you were gonna say there's almost no normal Carol King because she's known for kind of like where I mean she's been in multiple movies, Princess Bride, other movies where she's kind of like either worn different things or had different voices, things like that, in with her character. But
Yeah, but
anyway.
but it's not there. And to me, that's brilliant because that's exactly the opposite of what you're expecting. And I think that that's what you're having trouble with is what maybe you're expecting or assuming this movie was going to present for you. And then it ended up being something totally opposite, which is what bothers you about the film. But actually, that's what I like the most about the film. And I love that last shot because it's just time to stop and be able to breathe and relax. And you can actually sleep without worrying about me because there's a big thing made of him, not a big thing, but a couple of shots of him grabbing his gun before he falls asleep and holding, which is, a cliche for sleeping out in, the open country in a Western. And that's one of the first things that you see when they attack them, when Worm and Morris attack them. They kick his gun out of the way because he's kind of turned over the opposite way. John C. Reilly's turned the opposite way. So they actually just be able to, because you're given the impression that the brothers have a different take on where their lives are going to go after this particular task from the Commodore. John C. Reilly wants to quit and open a store, and Joaquin Phoenix, he's not going to give up the life. He gets a thrill just dealing with the addiction of this lifestyle. So to actually see them doing something as normal as taking a bath and being able to take a nap with your back turned to the door, with no gun, in your childhood bed, they had been waiting to exhale on two different levels the whole entire film. Now that Joaquin Phoenix has brutally gone through losing his arm by his own account, now his idea has to change of the lifestyle because he says, this is my shooting arm, this is my shooting hand. And then you see that one shot of him trying to hold the gun out with his left hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so immediately that's never going to work. He can do what he can do, but it's not going to be the same thing. So now the lifestyle has to change whether or not he wants to or not. So that last shot and that last continuous shot connects all three of those characters to, they all wanted something. They all wanted to be safe, but they never thought it was going to end up this way. So, and maybe I'm reading way too much into it, but I kind of think I'm not, because all of those shots are in there. You see Joaquin Phoenix crying in the middle of the night after he loses his arm.
Mm-hmm.
That's the character change. That's the way that the director and the screenwriter says this character is changing has changed in front of you. Because he fakes that cry in the beginning of the film.
That's good.
Right?
That's good. I like that.
Oh my God, so good. I don't know, dude. Maybe this is our 2019 Hell or High Water where we totally differ on something.
See, I think this hits me a lot better than Hell or High Water did.
Well, you're still wrong about that.
I still need to rewatch it. I will still rewatch it.
I probably will watch that movie the rest of my life.
Yeah, great.
No, I make jokes about that because you and I don't really differ too much on things. We are two entirely different people. I'm an actor, you're an engineer. I mean, right there, we're entirely different. We've talked about this a million times before. You're married, I'm not. You're Christian, I'm not. I mean, we're two entirely different people, but our dispositions when it comes to films, only you and I could have walked out of Suspiria and went, let's talk about that. What the hell was that? In a great way. Most people that would have been a polarizing film for most people.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that something like that is interesting to you would be something somebody might not think you would be into by all of those standards that I just mentioned, if you will. Mm-hmm. I'm saying stereotypically. And that because I come from an arts background, that kind of thing is something that's right up my alley. But there were a lot of things that in Suspiria that you explained to me that I went, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. But I didn't artistically get that. The point to that is that the Hell or High Water example is just an example of where we differed completely on a film. So it's always going to be the example of when we start to differ on a film, I make reference to that because we totally differed on that. It was on my top 10 list. It was number 4, I think. And you were like, go ahead, talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's just a reference point to when we differ on things, we really differ on things, and we don't often. I don't feel like this is the same thing. I feel like you're trying to figure out that there's something about this movie, from what I've been hearing you talk about, that has interested you enough to want to know why I love this film.
Yeah.
I don't think you felt that way about Hell or High Water. You're like, nope.
I was pretty set in my ways on that one. Whereas this one, I'm more in the like, win me over camp type of a thing. So,
well, let me just say this. I would venture to say that in the future, if you revisited Hell or High Water, I think you're going to come out feeling the exact same way. I actually think you're going to dislike it more. Okay. I think maybe this is the type of film, The Sisters Brothers, that you might revisit and maybe not come out liking it more, but come out understanding what the filmmaker and the screenwriter wanted more so than what you took from it. Because I think we're open-minded enough to go, well, aren't I tooting my own horn, aren't we? Aren't I? I think we're open-minded enough to go, that film I have a lot of questions about, but I understand that somebody might understand it differently than I do, and that's warranted of it being an interesting film. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just not cutting it off because you didn't take to it. Yeah. And that's actually a really good quality.
Yeah, well, we try. All right, so you can check us out on the web at actorandengineer.com. You go to facebook.com/actorandengineer, and you can tweet us at actorengineer. I'll see you next week.